Every Sunday morning, when I first enter this beautiful, magical sanctuary, I immediately begin to feel the presence, what we just sang about, the presence of joy, peace, love, and the presence of the divine, of course, which all of those represent. It's not just the physical sanctuary itself, though, that brings me that feeling. It's you, all of us together, the people that fill this beautiful space. Collectively, we have all accepted the joy and the obligation to give of ourselves to each other and to the community as a whole. But beyond that, I'm almost overwhelmed by the knowledge that this tiny but mighty spiritual community, mostly created by our recently departed minister, Vivian Clark, can lift my spirits just by thinking about it, even when I'm not here. Vivian Clark herself was tiny in stature, but mighty, both in her high heels, but mostly in her indomitable spirit. May we all feel her presence here as well. And so it is.
When I first approached Patrick about giving a mini message, I was thinking about gratitude, but things changed and I spoke about love instead. Well, now I'm back to gratitude. As I was writing this, I had a small epiphany. For decades, this has been a difficult time of year for me. Not only are the days shorter with less sunlight, but the next 4 months are when everyone important to me who has passed not only died during this period, but all their birthdays fell during this period as well. Then there are the holidays. Now, back to my epiphany. It occurred to me that rather than falling into a deep depression during this period, as I have done in the past, I might better be grateful. Grateful for the time I did get to spend with them. Grateful for the richness and variety they brought to my life. Grateful for everything they taught me and everything they gave me. Grateful for all the love and support they gave me. Grateful for all the other people they brought into my life. I find gratitude to be a curious thing. I'm sure most of us here were raised to say thank you whenever someone gave us something or did something for us. But were you also raised to say thank you for a beautiful sunrise or a remarkable rock formation? What about the beautiful flowers many people call weeds? What about that annoying person who goes through the express checkout line with a basket full of groceries? After all, it clearly says 15 items only. And what about that annoying politician you're sure is responsible for the mess this country is in? Well, if you were a Buddhist, the answer would be yes. In fact, if you are a Christian, the answer should also be yes. In 12-step programs, they say you should strive for an attitude of gratitude. Excellent advice. But how do you do that? How do you implement such a change in your life? I heard a TED Talk a while back. It was full of excellent advice, but the one thing that stuck with me was to follow the practice of every night before going to bed, write down 3 things that you are grateful for that day. The one rule is they have to be new things each night, no repeats. What I found from doing this for a while was that I began to actively look for things to be grateful for. Instead of cursing that idiot who cut me off in traffic, perhaps be grateful that the traffic is moving at an appropriate pace and that there are no accidents. Instead of being grumpy that there is no parking place in front of the grocery store, perhaps be grateful for the opportunity to stretch your legs and get a little more exercise, especially if you're counting your steps. In other words, I found myself consciously looking for things to be grateful for instead of being pissed off at all the annoying things in the world. I once had a friend that after a while I found to be one of the most negative people I have ever known. Not wanting to appear rude or judgmental, I found myself replying over and over again, "Wow, it never occurred to me to think that." I finally realized this was someone I needed to let go of. She has now risen to the place of honor in my life as a good example. I subscribe to the adage, if you can't be good, be a good example. How many times have you heard or seen the request, please pray for me, fill in the blank? The issue can be any of a number of things, ill health, financial woes, a terrible accident. I find that I respond to all such requests in the same way. I say, I will hold the good thought for you. What I mean by that is that I will hold the space for healing. But rather than explain my thought process, including my upbringing and everything I've learned along the way, I simply say, I will hold the good thought for you. I find prayer and gratitude inextricably bound together. When I pray, I don't think of it in the traditional manner of supplication to a higher being. When I pray, I simply say, thank you, God, fill in the blank. The list is really endless, and it's not always the same, although many things do reoccur. I would like to say now, thank you, God, for the Church of the Oaks. You came to me at a time in my life when I really needed you. I would also like to say thank you, God, for my beautiful wife, Kendra. You love me and support me in so many ways, and you inspire me to be a better person. Thank you.
We are definitely grateful for your mini message. Thank you very much, Catherine. It's time for some announcements, apparently, and I guess that's up to me to give them. First off, I want to mention that the board this morning held their meeting, and we made a few decisions, one of which is we're going to have an annual meeting a little earlier than usual. We're supposed to have it sometime during January, so January 22nd of 2023 will be our annual meeting. And at that point, we get to make a bunch of decisions. We vote on various things like the budget approval and who's going to be our new board of directors. At least half of them get nominated. And if you want to be part of the group who actually gets a yay or nay at that annual meeting, then you must be a member, an official member of Church of the Oaks. And I know we have at least one person who intends to join before then. If there's anyone else of you who would like to be more involved in the actual church and the running of it, then please talk to me or talk to our minister, Patrick McCarty, before the 22nd of January so that we can get you officially approved. In fact, it would have to be before the board meeting in January, the second Sunday of January, because the board does get to say yay or nay to your application for membership. Let's see, what else here? Healing circles are going on tonight at 7:30, and then also the 20th and the 27th of this month, and then we'll announce next month's schedule when we get there, 7:30 p.m. right here in the sanctuary. The board meeting, okay, we'll have another board meeting. I mentioned the second Sunday in December, and then the second Sunday in January as well. Spiritual Book Study Group is not meeting this coming Thursday. Is that correct? Because it's Thanksgiving, is it not?
The next dates are the first.
Okay. The next one will either December 1 or December 8. Is there a meeting this coming Thursday?
No.
Okay, so the next one will be either December 1 or 8.
We're skipping Thanksgiving.
Yes, so
It'll be the following Thursday.
So it'll be the following Thursday, which is December 1. So it's out of the every other week rotation. You're starting a new rotation December 1st. Thank you. I'll do my best to be better next time. All right, now that starts, of course, at 10 a.m. All right, landscape cleanup party. Sir David, we have a party planned.
10 o'clock next Saturday, we'll be meeting here to do some landscape cleanup. And very nicely, Joelle offered to, those of you who want to participate in by offering food to those who work, Joelle is coordinating that. She already volunteered to cook pasta and salad for those of us who were chopping and cutting and trimming and whatnot. So whatever help you can offer, please come at 10. You can come after 10. You can come right before lunch and eat. It's great. Great. And there might be a little bit more work after lunch. We'll see. So that is Saturday, next Saturday, the 19th.
That's correct, it's at 19th.
So please come and help.
Okay, and then we have our monthly potluck, the last Saturday, which is November 27th, right in the hall after service on Sunday the 27th. Bring whatever you can and share. And we also, of course, after service every other Sunday, have a get-together in the fellowship hall with coffee and nibblies. I guess there's nibblies over there, right? Are there any other announcements? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I just want to let everybody know that I've been here since August, hanging out with my dear friend Kelly, and I'm going home next Saturday on the 19th, home to Vallejo. I'll be up again, but I just wanted you to know that, in case you're wondering where I am, I'm not here.
But at least you can watch us on YouTube. Why don't you set up a YouTube channel so we can watch you? Thank you. Any other announcements? Yes.
Just a friendly reminder that there's a barrel for Noah over in the social hall. You know, this is, the need goes out throughout the year, but add food to it. Generally, we, put donations in when we have our potluck, but through the month, if you go in there, when it's filled up, we didn't know what to call it, we come and get it. And then the other announcement is my niece is going to come give us special music on the 27th of this month, Thanksgiving weekend. So if you're able to be back from your family and travels, come and join a wonderful singer there. It'll be here during service. She's going to offer up special music. She's generously said she would like to share with us.
On November 27th.
November 27th this month.
All right, that should have been part of the announcement. So you want to be here for November 27th,
Many reasons to show up.
so you get to eat and sing, or listen to singing. Does she sing?
She sings very well.
She sings very well, that's what I'm told, by another source besides you. Okay, then it's time for us to sing now, What a Wonderful World, number 40 in the songbook. Stand up and exercise your vocal cords. Red roses too, I see them bloom for me and for you. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, a bright blessed day. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're only saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, Hurry up, it's time to meet and greet in the fashion that you're most comfortable with. You may hug, or you may say, let's keep our distance, whatever you're comfortable with. I won't worry that our guest speaker has left because he's come right back. All right, so according to this schedule, it's time to celebrate our abundance. As your treasurer, which is my normal duties here, I am pleased to share with you the report I gave to the board of directors this morning at their meeting. In October, our income from all sources, including gifts left in the basket, commitments that some of us tithe each and every week and or month, and from the lease that we have with COTS Committee on the Shelterless, that they use our Rose Cottage for housing formerly homeless people. So all that income together gave us a sufficient amount to not only meet our absolute obligations, but to set some aside for future known expenses. So we're not rolling in it, folks, but there's sufficient for every need that we have. And we accomplish this not by passing the basket during our Sunday services, although for those of you who really do miss that basket, there's one on the back table. And as you leave here, if you choose to, and it has to be a voluntary decision on your part, to choose to give of some of your treasure, drop some in that basket and we'll say thank you. And you'll know that it goes to good causes that we are supporting all the time here at Church of the Oaks. Many of us who are here regularly, we do a weekly or a monthly tithe, and that helps us go and helps us keep going. We give thanks to you for keeping us going, and we give thanks to all. And so let us read our celebration of abundance affirmation, which is right in the middle of your order of service. Gratitude is the key to the realization and manifestation of abundance. Let's consider that as we hear some music. Have you ever noticed how absolutely beautiful the music is that Michael O'Brien plays? Thank you, sir. Let us now, in preparation for the practice to be led by Natalie Dole, sing number 14 in the songbook, How Could Anyone Ever Tell You? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than wrong? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell me I was anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell me I was less than wrong? How could anyone fail to notice that my loving is a miracle? How deeply I'm connected to your soul.
Good morning, all. I just want to first thank Catherine for a really profound mini message that opened something in me to hear you speak of gratitude and how prayer is really best practiced as gratitude. Simply thank you for all the blessings. And today's practice for me is about, we've spent a lot of these moments together in the practice experiencing ourselves as energy and using that to get back in touch with the present moment. So today we're going to take that a step further. I'm going to share sort of I guess you'd call it an active meditation technique or a visualization that is core to my practice. And when done with commitment, it has the power actually to bring healing to your life on every level, including physical. A few weeks ago, I was fighting off a cold that Nanda had, and I gave myself some extra time to do this for 5 or 6 days while I was I could feel myself holding it at bay, and I never actually fully got the cold. So just want everyone to be open to that possibility as well. And it's very simple. You just imagine that in your heart or your solar plexus is kind of the center of your energy, and to bring healing, you imagine that you're drawing a beautiful beam of light up from the center of the earth and another from the center of the cosmos, mixing them together in that central place, and then letting them wash out through your energy field, carrying with them anything that you're ready to release. And what we imagine is that there's what I would call a grounding cord, say, down the center of the room, and all of the things that we're releasing it's like those central vacuum kind of things that you imagine it just getting sucked down into the center of the earth. And the earth's role is really just to transform all energy into its original form. So it's not as if we're dumping our junk into the earth like a toxic waste dump or anything like that. This is actually a service that the earth is happy to provide. And so let's just take a couple of deep breaths together to start. And to start with, just imagine that your whole body is leaning back into a big, beautiful beam of golden light. This golden light goes all the way to the center of the earth and all the way to the center of the cosmos, and it just holds you perfectly in present time, where all is well. Just feel your burdens lift in the support of this divine intelligence. Continue to breathe, and as you sink into this moment more fully, become aware of this beam of rich golden light that's gently flowing from the earth through your toes, up your legs to your solar plexus, and as it does so, a similar beam of, it's like a platinum color almost, or there's even a little tiny bit of pink, but it's like that shiny, strong but gentle effulgence flowing down, white, gold, a little pink, from the center of the cosmos to that point in your solar plexus, mixing with the energy from below. And the two of them continuing to mix and just gently washing through your whole body and energy field, up and out, and down that grounding cord, that central divine vacuum. And I know that when I was first taught this technique, I thought that I really had to do it. And that often made it more of a struggle than it needed to be. In this space together, our intention is to simply allow these beautiful currents of divine intelligence to flow, trusting and knowing that their volume will be just exactly what we need. The exact frequency they carry will be also just what we need. And just feel the wonderful sensations that come when you relax into this flow that is always here for you. Breathe it in, breathe it out. There's no set time for which it's best to do this practice. You simply do it until you start to feel better. But since we only have so much time right now, I want each of you to make a note of the color of this energy for you right now. I'm getting that kind of pink, platinum, gold combination, but it might be slightly different for each of you. Receive that now and know that by remembering that color in the future, you will be able to do this practice on your own. So let that really sink into your being from your head all the way to your toes. Just thanking yourself, your higher self, your angels, all our divine helpers, for being with you now and always. And commit also to being there in this way for yourself. For you are worthy as a child of God. Namaste.
Thank you, Natalie. Very, very relaxing. Our guest speaker today is someone we all know. He's a member of our board, David Ergo. But I've just learned that as a published author, he has a pseudonym that he prefers to go by from now on, although if I write him a check, it probably has to go to David Ergo. But he prefers to be known as David Christopher. So he publishes under that, and I give to you then our guest speaker, David Christopher.
Thank you. So I was hungry for a holy text. I grew up as an Episcopalian and went to a small storefront church in Rankin Valley up in Santa Rosa. And my 8-year-old self didn't quite get what they were trying to teach with the doctrine. For example, when they taught me about Jesus, how Jesus had taken away my sin, I remember feeling very anxious and concerned about that, because I really didn't understand, even though I didn't understand who Jesus was and what sin was, all my 8-year-old self knew that someone had taken something from me and I had no idea how I was going to get it back. It's a true story. But as I learned more about the doctrine, something really felt off. And as with most people, I drifted away from the church and its dogma. But I still loved remembering the scripture that Father Parrott would offer to us, the sound of the Gospels told by the King James Bible. Decades later, I became attracted to what was called the new story of creation, or a new story, put forth by scientists and theologians, that talked about the science of the creation of the universe using the latest what physicists had discovered about the creativity and the emergence and the miracle of the universe. But they told it as a description. They told it in a way that didn't really invoke that sense of awe. I still missed the lyricism of the liturgy. I still missed the sound and cadence of the scriptures. So a mentor encouraged me to go ahead, why don't you rewrite that new story with that in mind. And what came to me was this dialogue between a seeker and a sage. And when the seeker asked the sage about living in the times on this planet when we're in such crises, the sage offered a story that is one container that we can use for contemplating the challenges that we face. So the sage went back 13.8 billion years to the beginning of our cosmos, to the beginning of the creation of the universe, and started the story with this. It was the beginning of all beginnings. It was a time of no time, for time did not exist. A place of no place, for space did not exist. It was a beginning like no other, for there was no before. There was no time, there was no place. There was only the infinite and the unfathomable mystery. And the unfathomable mystery was all that was to be. And all that was to be was small, smaller than the tiniest particle, in the tiniest atom, in the tiniest dream. Although there was nowhere from which to see how small all that was to be was, for there was no outside, no inside, no here, no there, no now, no then, no darkness, and no light. There was nothing save a whisper of what might be. An infinitesimal, indescribable, unfathomable mystery. And out of the unfathomable mystery, the infinite called forth to itself. It called forth space. It called forth time. It called forth being. And in that ecstatic instant, the universe slammed exploding into existence, roaring and roiling outward with a jubilant and breathtaking beauty, brightness, energy, violence, power, and glory of a trillion newborn stars. It was a perfect explosion. For 1/trillionth of a second slower, the universe would then collapse back into itself, unfulfilled. 1/trillionth of a second faster, and the universe would spin out, dissipating into nothingness, never to create galaxies, stars, planets, life, nor us. A perfect explosion. And in the instance of this perfect explosion, the infinite began a brilliant and fierce cycle of gloriously creating, violently destroying, and gloriously creating once more, as if it knew what it was doing. This is the way that I like to hear the story that sciences has to tell, the complement to the facts. From there, the sage tells the story of the creation of the galaxies, stars, planets, the emergence of life and humanity here on Earth, all the way up to our present-day global crises. And the sage turns to the question, what does this evolutionary story have to tell us as we face the present-day global crises and catastrophes? What are the billion-year-old lessons from our ancient ancestors that can lead us through these times? The one story I want to tell you today started about 3.5 billion years ago, about when well after life had come forth on Earth. And our ancestors, these tiny beings, bacteria, these tiny beings were thriving. They were actually building little villages and interacting and having a wonderful time of it and thriving. But as enormous as Earth was, there was a global famine that came into being. All the food for these tiny beings was beginning to be used up. But here's how life responded. It created photosynthesis. One day, one of these tiny beings, hungry for food and feeling the stress of famine, responded in a way both startling and unpredictable. This tiny being felt the warmth of the sun. It turned towards the sun's rays and seized tiny sparks of starlight energy, using these tiny sparks to strip apart molecules of water and air, and thereby creating a new, bountiful source of food. Using starlight in this way, this new being prospered. All the beings prospered. So in response to this global catastrophe, life created a new way, a new source of food through photosynthesis. But photosynthesis had serious consequences for the web of life. And the sage continues, once again, catastrophe. For as the beings who seized starlight to strip apart water and air became stronger and multiplied, they gave off oxygen, a vile and poisonous fire that slowly spread and turned the color of the sky an ominous, deadly blue. For this oxygen, this poison, destroyed the wastes of one that might have been food for others, rendered inedible the flesh of earth, and even penetrated the beings and killed them. Oxygen wrought havoc across the earth. It destroyed vast swarms of the tiny beings, their food, and their colonies of life. Scientists call this time back in Earth's history the oxygen catastrophe. Because at that point, the oxygen that life was creating was a poison. It was a pollutant. And the web of life thrived in this beautiful, gorgeous atmosphere of red-brown. And oxygen was a big problem. Life came that close to being extinct on Earth because of the catastrophe of oxygen. Yet out of this second catastrophe, two of the little beings came together. To this point, there were only simple cells. These tiny beings were just little simple cells. But two of them came together to create the complex cell, or what biologists call the eukaryotic cell. Two beings joined together as one, using oxygen the waste of one, as sustenance for itself. And this new being's waste, carbon dioxide, became in turn sustenance for others. And here's the lesson. Catastrophe begat creativity. Competition begat cooperation. The curse of oxygen became a blessing. All the tiny beings once again prospered and multiplied, filling the oceans of earth. And the blue of the sky transformed from the color of death into the color of life. Complex life, plants, fungi, animals, us, could not have been created without this cell. And this cell was created out of a global catastrophe. It was a miracle of emergence. And it's worth to take a little bit of a diversion to say what emergence is. Emergence is where new forms arise out of old forms that have no relation to what those old forms were. It's unpredictable. You can't know what the creative process of evolution is going to come up with. As if it knew what it was doing. I wonder if it's a dumb process. I don't think it is. As an example, hydrogen is an explosive gas put together with oxygen, a corrosive. You have explosions, but in the right moment, in the moment of emergence, they come together and form water? How do you get water out of a corrosive and an explosive gas? You can't predict it. That's what emergence teaches us. Life came this close to being destroyed on Earth because of a global catastrophes and crises. Does that sound familiar to any of the beings in this congregation here? It may be that this is more than just a metaphor for what we face from an ecological perspective, from a social perspective, from a spiritual perspective, that all these crises coming together, it's possible that these crises will awaken evolutionary processes that are unfathomable to us. It may be that the catastrophe that we're facing on our planet, with each other, even within ourselves, it may be the best thing to happen to us, the best thing to happen to life. The challenge for me is to remember this day to day, with the onslaught of all this stuff coming at me of how horrible things are. It's really hard for me to realize and remember that perhaps these crises are the catalysts for the future that I weave, that we all weave together. We can't imagine what it means when the sage talks about what the sage calls planetary mind, that is now emerging out of modern mind. And here's the good news, we don't need to know. We just need to be open and act, listen to our deepest heart's desire, and move forward with that. The sage says, when we choose to bring forth planetary mind, we align ourselves with a stupendous, deep, and powerful drive inherent within the infinite. We align ourselves with a cosmically ingenious and mysterious drive toward complexity, toward order and beauty, this drive towards life, seething throughout the universe since the beginning of all beginnings. It's as if we're attending a birth, the baby's coming ready or not. It will take work, there will be enormous pain and even blood, and no guarantees that everything will work out. But deep down, the bodies of mother and child know what to do, and the infinite will not be denied. The practice then is remembering this, not just understanding this, but holding these stories day to day as we're faced with what challenges us. Toward the end of these dialogues, the seeker reflects that, even with all this stories, when all these lessons, the seeker still says, are we really going to make it? Is it really going to work out? And the two of them are at the seashore talking about the situation on Earth, the predicament, as if that's not a big enough word to describe what we're in. Are we going to make it? And the sage says, I think we will. As I sit here and look out at the decorated sky, listening to the chorus of waves and shorebirds, I remember. I remember that the infinite has been driving itself to greater order and complexity and to greater consciousness for billions of years. I remember that we are much larger than we think. We are not meaningless specks on an insignificant planet in a vast, heartless universe. Instead, we are dazzling flashes of brilliance on a tiny but delightful, sacred sparkle of stardust called Earth. The universe cannot be 1 millimeter smaller and be able to call us into being. The infinite worked patiently for billions of years to create us, to create everything. There is a place for you in the universe, a place for you in the web of life. You never were separate from the infinite. She fell silent once again, and they sat basking in the starlight. And yes, the sage is a woman, but that's a whole nother story for another time. I'd like to end with this piece that ties together these themes of evolutionary creativity, belonging, and awe. And it's called The Smallest Vessel. What is the smallest vessel that can hold a human being? Certainly it is more than the skin and bones that contain the pulsing of the individual life held within. One human cannot forever stand alone and separate. Even the wise woman who lives in the forest apart from the others serves as the wise woman for those others. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least one other human being. But two humans together cannot forever stand alone and separate. They need young ones to raise and teach, to help with the daily chores, and finally to take charge and carry on as the elders grow old, their bodies dying, releasing their stardust and becoming starlight once again. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least the family. But the family cannot forever stand alone and separate. It needs others to help in the gathering of food, the building of shelter, and in caring for those who are sick or hurt, just as it helps those others in their own time of need. The family needs others to bind together with in times of catastrophe, of want, and of war, as well as to rejoice with in times of plenty and of peace. The family needs others to share in the knowledge of the gifts of the infinite and to learn the ways of the wise old ones. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least the clan. But the clan cannot long survive alone. It needs oxygen to breathe, food to eat, and waters to quench its thirst. It needs medicine to heal and comfort those who are sick and infirm. It needs insects to pollinate and clean the forests, savannas, deserts, and prairies. It needs jaguars, hawks, turtles, sparrows, trees, mushrooms, flowers, vines, and all manner of plants, animals, and mycelia to teach the wordless songs of the infinite. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include the whole of the web of life. But the web of life cannot long survive alone. It needs a mother willing to share her flesh, air, water, the makings of soil, and the mixing together of life-giving elements so that the web of life might form itself out of her own body. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least Earth herself. But Earth cannot long survive alone. She needs a star to draw light from, to warm her creations, to cause the winds to blow, the clouds to form, and the rains to fall. She needs a moon to steady her as she dances spinning through the seasons, and to help her oceans pulse with life-giving tides. She needs planets, comets, asteroids, to pull and push and sometimes collide with her as she stirs the cauldron of creativity. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least the sun and his children. But the sun and his children cannot have come into being alone. You can see where we're going with this. They need a galaxy of stars, forming, living, dying, exploding, creating the elements for life. They need 1 billion seeds, 1 billion possibilities, and the death of the grandmother star to bring forth that one precise possibility that allowed our son to be born and his children to emerge. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least the galaxy. But the galaxy cannot have come into being alone. It needs forces, particles and fire spinning forth from the first callings of the infinite, forming into billions of colossal galactic clouds spiraling out into the primordial cosmos. The smallest vessel that can hold a human being must include at least the universe. But the universe could not have come into being alone. It needs an unfathomable mystery, a time of no time, a place of no place, a beginning of all beginnings, so that the infinite can then call forth the universe, and the universe can then explode into being. Therefore, the smallest vessel that can hold a human being, that can hold you yourself and hold all beings, must include the whole of the infinite at the very least. Thank you.
Skip that part.
Wow. I like this new David Christopher a lot. I like the old David Ergo, too. That was magnificent, sir. And that's all in your book. And your book is back there. I assume people can offer to. And over there. All right. I, by the way, got one out of the library. They have 2 copies there. One of them is currently at my home. All right, as part of his talk, he wanted to provide a song for us to sing at the final get-go here, and it's called Blue Boat Home. It's a song that most of you are going to recognize the lyric, the music to. Stand up. Michael will play through once.
The whole thing without singing.
No singing. Let him play it through, and the words themselves are on the back of your order of service. So as he's playing it through, you can read it, and then he'll start over again, and we'll all sing it. Let's go, Michael. here with my shoes compared. So are we here with pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens. It's a beautiful blue home. Grab a hand, make a circle, and to all that, we're going to say a hearty amen. We're going to sing it. Bravo!